Good morning, I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching, as always, it is appreciated. The situation is with this Labour government, it's so deeply unpopular. I think only about 13% of the country is actually happy with the way that this government is taking us. I have to ask who the 13% is, but maybe that's a video for another day. I wanted to get into the farmers and the land grab that's happening with the farmers because, in my view, nobody voted for this. We were told we were going to get a sustainable pathway for farmers, but what seems to be happening is that all the farmers in the United Kingdom are being put out of business. The planning laws are going to be loosened for compulsory purchase of farmland for solar farms, for Red Ed's Green New Deal, apparently. So I want to get into this first of all, alright? Let's just see what we've got here. The Labour government's compulsory acquisition land grab. It classifies the land grab as nationally significant infrastructure projects, limiting the ability of local authorities to object to schemes and handling ultimate approval to the Secretary of State, and handing developers compulsory acquisition rights to take over people's private land and buildings. The legislation at the heart of this controversy is the Planning Act of 2008. This Compulsory Planning Act 2008 was drawn up by the previous Labour government when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister and Ed Miliband was competed for his first stint as Energy Secretary. A key element of the 2008 Act was it gave private renewable energy developers as much power to seize people's land as the government, provided they had a compelling case in the public interest. More on that in a minute. What is happening now is that wherever solar companies seek development consent order, it's almost always asked for these powers as part of the deal. This has set the stage for the most significant land transfers to private companies and corporates for more than a century, says David Rogers, Professor of Ecology at Oxford University and founder of SolarQ, which monitors the expansion of solar farms. He finishes by saying that solar and other renewable energies companies and developers have been given outrageous powers by Miliband, and they can use these powers to force people to give up their land, often top quality farmland, to industries for solar panels, most of which are made in China, slave labour conditions, and then imported into the West, and they can't be recycled. And that's what they're doing. Alright. Now, I'm going to play a clip now. This is from a lefty lobby. I think her name is Mariana Purkis or something similar. She's a wag. She's a footballer's wife. Not much going on in the grey matter. She's just there to look pretty and to sound like she's on the right side of things. But she gets hands on her arse in this little clip, so I'm going to play this now.
Example, so many of these farms are bought to avoid paying inheritance tax. Those people need to be
Very few farms are bought for that purpose. But imagine you have a farm worth £5 million. You have an allowance of £3 million, so you're going to pay 20% tax on £2 million. That's £400,000.
Now let's over 10 years.
Now let's imagine that farm, 5 million capital value, is producing a return of about 1%. That's 50,000 a year, on which you'll pay income tax. You have to pay that tax bill of £400,000 out of an income of 50,000 a year.
Yeah.
That is all your income for the next 8 years, and you have to live. And I'm afraid what you demonstrate is the lack of understanding that the Treasury shows as to how farming is financed.
Yeah.
And it's people that don't understand that are making these decisions. And this is why the farmers in my constituency are so livid with the Treasury.
So there we have it. Now, one thing I will push back on in that particular clip is I think the Treasury, or at least the people that are drafting these regulations, know full well it's going to be putting people out of business. In fact, they were counting on it. If you remember last year, we know that I think it's Barry or Larry Fink, or BlackRock, a huge multinational financial hedge fund, essentially. They had private meetings with Bill Gates and the British government. And we had one of our guys, good chap, Lewis Brackpool, put in some freedom of information requests. Now, I'm paraphrasing here, and this is the inference I've took from the response that he got, which is essentially if something's regarding national security or infrastructure, then it's not subject to freedom of information, and we have the right to withhold it. Now, the inference I take from that is if we're transparent with this, people wouldn't vote for us. That's what I take from when they come back with this gobbledygook is, this is bad PR, the public's not with us, we need to do it behind closed doors, otherwise there'd be a revolt. That's what I take from this. Now, record number of farms have shut in wake of the inheritance tax raid, and as I say, they say they've got a sustainable plan for farmers. No, they haven't. It's to put farmers out of business and outsource farming to the developing world for slave labour. And that's what they want to do, and that's what they want to do with all the jobs as well. Bearing in mind, all this is being done under a Labour government. Over 6,000 businesses, farms, have closed since this inheritance tax raid has come through. This is ridiculous, and I know I never voted for this. I'm not a Labour voter, I'm not that stupid. But this is an act of national mutilation that our government's committing on us. I think it goes much, much further than that, though, because it's a dereliction of duty. The communities, the farms in the areas, no one does more for the rural community than the farmers. And I know this from personal experience. I've been a farmhand in the past, and I know people that have had and have farms. They are essential, and they are the lifeblood of the community. That may sound like a platitude, but it's coming from a good place. The Labour government is for its corporate paymasters. It's not for the working people or the working class people. Definitely not. What this actually shows is a stunning lack of regard for the country as a country. It doesn't see us as a country. It sees that certain things can be done in Britain, but nothing to be a self-sustaining country in any way, shape or form. No infrastructure is going to be managed nationally anymore. It's going to be done globally, and it's done for the elites. It's done for the ruling class because they want this globalist utopia that they want to flag marshal us to. They don't actually want any person to be patriotic in a way that's against their interests, and they don't want anybody to speak out of turn. I'm going to go through some points now. Alright, let's just see. This shows that there's a prioritisation of economic gain over community well-being. Well, yeah, I'd say that fits Labour. Corporate lobbying, well, yeah, that's why Bill Gates and Larry or Barry Fink is getting private meetings and FaceTime with the Prime Minister. Neglect of environmental concerns, well, yeah, how environmentally friendly are these solar panels that are being packed in that can't actually be recycled? Let's have a look. Erosion of public trust. What public trust? Everybody in the country hates the Labour Party, and they are a one-term government. And there's no community, it says here, weak community representation. I'd go further, it's no community representation. And then what else does it show? Let's just see what else it finally shows. Corruption or conflicts of interest? Well, yes to both of them, definitely. Short-term policy focus, yeah, they're doing something because it sounds good on paper. Well, at least to them it sounds good on paper. Nobody's actually liking this at all. No local autonomy for the local residents and communities, completely agree with that. Reinforcement of power imbalances, and failure to uphold social justice. This is what your Labour government is doing. Anybody that voted Labour, I don't know if anybody on my channel is a Labour voter, I suspect not. This is what Labour wants. They don't want us to be self-sustaining in any way, shape or form. They want to put all of the farmers out of business. They've got this sustainable plan for farmers, and it's like $2 billion over 2 years, alright? We're spending over double that, $5 billion a year, on the migrant hotels alone, let alone everything else. I think the benefits that the migrants, not the illegal migrants by the way, but the Boris wave, if they get indefinite leave to remain, that's going to be over 250 billion. Thanks, Boris. If you look at the government's rhetoric, always look at the nonsense behind the rhetoric, what they're actually doing. They say they care about farmers, but it's clear that they care at least twice as much for the boat people coming over to the substitute population than they do about people that are born and bred in the country and have a care for the land. I'm from Cheshire, and I love walking in the countryside, in the Shire fields, rambling along in the countryside. It's just breathtaking. It really is. It sickens me that we've got governments that want to put solar farms and wind farms all over our countryside. It's a disgrace, and it's just the latest on a long list of betrayals. In case you didn't know, I fully back the farmers. No farmers, no food. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. 2 tiers toast. I appreciate your time.